This is Word on the Reef, where marine science meets adventure. Join Tanya Murphy and Brett Goodban as we plunge into the wonders of the Great Barrier Reef and explore the mysteries beneath the waves. Yes, good morning everyone and welcome to Word on the Reef. My name is Tanya Murphy and with me is my fellow aquanaut Brett Goodban. Good morning.
Hey guys, how are you? Hope you've all had a great week.
So today we're going to be travelling to Magnetic Island, or Yombanon as it's known to traditional owners. Located just 20 minutes off the coast of Townsville in North Queensland, this beautiful tropical island attracts some of the world's leading marine biologists and artists who come there to study its wildlife and be inspired by its beauty. So for our listeners out there who might be streaming in from around the world, to get to Magnetic Island, you just need to take a 2-hour flight north of Brisbane or drive about 4 hours south of Cairns to get to Townsville. Then it's just a short 20-minute ferry hop to Magnetic Island. And as soon as you hop off the ferry, you'll find yourself in the settlement of Nelly Bay, which is home to today's guest. Marine biologist and underwater photographer Lawrence Scheele has been using photography to document and raise awareness about the amazing array of marine life found on the island, which includes a number of previously undiscovered species. Good morning, Lawrence. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm great. Yeah, I'm coming to you live from Magnetic Island.
Yeah, our first guest. It's exciting.
Very exciting to be talking to someone that's actually out there on the Great Barrier Reef or part of the Great Barrier Reef. Lawrence, paint a picture for us. What can you see from where you are?
So at the moment, I'm standing on a big headland, and Magnetic Island, or as the locals affectionately call it, Maggie, is known for its colossal granite boulders along its pristine coastline, with towering hoop pines, eucalyptus trees. It's a wildlife paradise, where I can actually see a white-bellied sea eagle hovering above the bay at the moment, looking for something to catch. So it's really magical.
Wonderful.
Sounds amazing, and it's looking very rainy where we are for the next few days, but I saw that from Sunday onwards it looks like it's going to be less than 10 knots of wind from the southeast, which is actually pretty amazing snorkeling and diving weather. How about where you are?
Yeah, it's not looking the best today. Next week's definitely looking a bit more promising. We've been getting a bit of intermittent rain here and there and cloudy skies.
How have you fared after the rain event and the little bit of the cyclone that you had to turn in the low pressure system a while ago? Has it cleared up a little bit?
Yeah, the water as of last week has finally cleared up. It's slowly gone from yellow to brown to green and now it's back to blue. So
the stage is back to paradise.
Yeah, that's it.
So let's learn a little bit more about Magnetic Island. It's an interesting name. How did Magnetic Island get its name?
So it was originally called Magnetical Island when Captain Cook first went past, because he noticed these boulders were stacked on top of each other and he thought they must have some magnetic property, so he named it Magnetical.
Oh, wow. And
then later on they worked out that his compass was actually just experiencing deviation, so it was nothing to do with the magnetical rocks. And at the time shortened to Magnetic Island, and then now, as we call it, Maggie. So it's just getting shorter in each time.
Yeah, we've shortened it as Aussies, haven't we?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, now Maggie.
That's it. And then the traditional custodians here affectionately call this land and sea country Yunbanan, and is the Woolgarukaba tribe that still have a lasting and enduring connection to the land and sea here. They're very active in protecting Yunbanan and Magnetic Island's natural values.
Amazing. And throughout its history, it had a bit of significance in World War II, I understand, because when I visited Maggie Island, we did a beautiful hike up to a sort of a building that was left from World War II. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so there's a few scattered forts on the mountains of Magnetic Island that were constructed by the American soldiers during World War II, but nowadays they make excellent hikes. There's a famous track called the Forts Walk, and you're pretty much guaranteed to see multiple koalas as you climb the mountain and mount the fort and just have a 360 view of the island.
Yes, can confirm. Did see many koalas.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. That's one critter that I have never seen in the wild is Captain Koala. So I'm going to have to get over there now.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think there might be a few listeners planning their trip when we talk about this amazing place.
If you hear the microphone drop, I'm on my way.
And yeah, some of the most beautiful views and the sunsets. Yeah, it's a very magical place. But Lawrence, you grew up in Sydney, so how did you come to be living pretty much everyone's dream life as a professional snorkeler on Maggie Island?
Yes, grew up in Sydney, fell in love with the ocean there and all the temperate marine life. And then by the time uni came around, I started studying down in Tasmania, so that was so freezing.
Oh.
So I ended up transferring up to Townsville at James Cook and finished my degree up here, and then just
Smart
fell in
move.
love with Magnetic Island and the tropics and all the tropical species, and yeah, never looked back since then.
Amazing. So you've been there for something like 5 or 6 years now, hey?
Yeah. Time goes quick on the island. It's slow pace, but time just flies.
Island time is a real thing, isn't it?
It is fully.
So during that time, you've amassed 75,000 Instagram followers and have worked to produce underwater imagery for the likes of the ABC, National Geographic, Disney,
Wow.
and more. So before we get stuck into a bit more about the Maggie Island marine life, can you just tell us what's one of the biggest recent film projects you've been involved with?
The most recent one was called Secrets of the Octopus by National Geographic. It's out on Disney Plus, and I got to work on set for a couple of days trying to locate a certain species and octopus that they were after for the program. So that was a really amazing experience, and they did such a good job with the film.
Wow.
So your job, the filmmakers were saying, okay, we want to film octopus, and your job is to tell us where they are. So how exactly do you do that?
Yeah, well, years and years of study and practice. Like, I can pretty much now find octopus and other cephalopods with my eyes closed. So
Yeah, yep.
yeah, it was a really amazing experience.
And is that part of just, I know from my time underwater, thousands of dives in the same spots, you sort of get to know where their little home is and the things that they will be looking for to eat and the times of days and nights that they'll go shopping and head out to the friends and visit their mates, and you get a bit of an idea of where they're going to be, don't you? But other people just don't really understand that, do they?
No, they don't, and especially with octopus and cephalopods, their ability of camouflage and colour change. Like,
Yeah.
most people swim right over them. And
That's right.
they don't see them.
Yep.
So what is sort of the thing to look out for? There's probably tons of people, including me, who are desperate to know, how can I improve my skills for finding octopus?
For sure. So one of the best ways is to actually train your eye to look at shells and crab claws. What typical octopus do is when they excavate a burrow, they will typically litter all their prey items and shells and rubble that they will construct as mini walls right outside their den. So if you're swimming along and you see all of a sudden there's this pile of substrate and it doesn't look like naturally occurring, good chance that's an octopus den, and the more shells and prey items around it, the longer the octopus has been living there, and chances are the bigger the octopus is.
Yeah, isn't it? It's fantastic, isn't it? They used to crack me up because they take the rubbish out and they clean their little den, and they're just going about their business, and it's just so funny to watch.
Yeah, it's incredible to witness. They're literally just maintaining their home.
Yeah,
They push out the sand and flush it with fresher water through their siphon. They're hilarious.
Oh, amazing creatures. I'll definitely be paying close attention to that next time I go snorkeling to try and see if I can spot an octopus den. Now, let's go back to Maggie Island. How important are inshore islands like Magnetic Island to the Great Barrier Reef biodiversity?
It's extremely incredible, and the more and more research we do on our fringing reefs and inshore islands, as we're discovering just how biodiverse they are and how different they are to our outer reef systems as well. Because fringing reefs are attached to a landmass or an island, they function really differently, and we get a lot of habitats that you won't see on the outer barrier reef, such as mangroves, salt pans, mud flats, just these environments that allow for different species to thrive and adapt in it that you won't see anywhere else.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, especially when you have a closer look.
Yes, today we are on a trip to Magnetic Island with marine biologist Lawrence Scheele. And he's just been telling us about the amazing marine life of Magnetic Island. And Lawrence, your photography business is called Snorkel Down Under, which really reflects how easy it is to see all these amazing things at Magnetic Island, right? You don't even need to go very far beneath the surface.
Yeah, no, it's really lucky. When you're snorkeling a lot of the islands on the Great Barrier Reef, the coral reef is really close to the beach and very shallow, so you pretty much can see everything snorkeling and freediving on one breath. So it's really amazing and super accessible.
Absolutely. So you are a scientist, but you're also an artist in terms of your incredible photography skills. How important is art in communicating science?
Yeah, I think art and science are fundamentally really entwined, although it may not seem like that. But a lot of the time it's art, whether it's movies, books or pieces that inspire people to maintain or create a connection with the natural world, especially the ocean, just how inspiring the oceans are and how much they've portrayed in our pop culture and art scenes, especially in Australia, where most people live around the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's giving people the opportunity to be there, isn't it? It's like, as a fellow underwater photographer, I just want to say that your photos are incredible. I had a look at them last night. They're just spectacular. And I don't want to start talking about camera gear and lenses, and because if I do with you, we're going to be spending the next 2 hours talking about it. But you're right, because that's exactly how I felt when I was filming and taking photos underwater. It's being able to share that experience with other people, and it is art, and it's something that if you've got a real eye for it, which you have, they're just amazing photos.
Oh, thanks, Brett. Yeah, it's just amazing being able to experience the ocean and the marine life that the Great Barrier Reef has. And then, as you said, being able to share that. People are so interested of what's out there, and you slowly try to encourage them that if they can, to go out and see it with their own lives and make that connection.
Yeah, and you feel like you're making a difference because because they're in the ocean, it's not accessible for everybody. So it's being able to be the voice and taking these family photos. You feel like you're down there with the animals, getting them all, to smile and do their little thing, and sharing their family photos with these creatures on the surface so they can appreciate them more.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So you're using your photography skills to compile a book. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so for the past 6 years, I've been writing a field guide to the marine life of Magnetic Island, and it's a book that I wanted to encompass and document all these amazing creatures that we were seeing that aren't as well known or thought to be here. So it's funny, what inspired me to produce this book is back when I was in uni, the supervisor at the time said that I was making up all these creatures on Magnetic Island and that they've never seen them. And so I thought, okay, well, the locals and the people that are out here are regularly seeing all these creatures. It would be so good if we had a resource that everyone can have access to, just how amazing the biodiversity is on Magnetic Island and the inshore reef of the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, so what sort of things were you seeing when you talked to your lecturers and they said, no, you're seeing things that's not real, you can't have seen that?
Yeah, just like a range of things. One of them was even blue bottles, which, as everyone knows, they seasonally occur, and if you're unlucky enough to get stung by them...
Yes, it's not something you forget.
No. But yeah, we do a lot of night diving and night snorkeling around the island, and that's on like a whole range of creatures that you'll never see during the day come out.
Yeah, night shift comes on.
That's it,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you know. And it's honestly another world. Like it's pretty much the closest to space with life in it that you can get. And
Yep.
every time we go out at night, you just see something and you're like, what is that? Like, that's
Yep.
such an alien thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm right there with you. Absolutely. I think I said in our first show that we did that it feels like all of these animals, the things that you see, half of the time you don't want to tell your mates or anyone about because they'll think that you're a Fruit Loop. But you have to just see this stuff to believe it. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's hard to describe it in words just because of how vast
Yeah.
all the different organisms are, and especially at night.
Yeah, and you know, there a lot of people say, never mind looking through telescopes into space. We've still got so much inner space in the ocean that we still haven't discovered or truly understand, which you're really proving when you continuously are coming across these new things and taking photos of them. And in your mission to photograph all the marine species, would you say it's your dream to photograph every every species on Magnetic Island? That's probably impossible, hey?
Yeah, so definitely it's an amazing dream to have. I feel like it would take multiple lifetimes to even be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it my best shot and hopefully share that with the world and inspire everyone to explore their local natural environment, however that looks like.
Yeah. It seems like, Lawrence, you'll stop at almost nothing in your mission to photograph all these species. I understand you and your partner have been known to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and look for octopus.
Yeah, that's a favourite pastime of mine.
That's awesome.
It's funny because there's a lot of the nocturnal creatures, their activity is heightened in certain lunar cycles. So for us, that's usually around 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. So we're out in the ocean snorkeling or diving at these ungodly hours, but it's just so thrilling and exhilarating being in the ocean during that time, just seeing like which animals have gone to bed, which ones are still out and about, and just seeing how the seabed and the communities change over a day and night.
Yeah, I love how you use the word communities because it's like that, isn't it? It's like night shift, day shift, nocturnal, diurnal, vespertine, and matutinal. I mean, they all act differently at different times of the day, and it can be so vastly different. Like you can see the parrotfish sitting in their big mucus bubble trying to hide their heartbeat from sharks so they don't get gobbled up. You know, you see all these animals behaving differently, the turtles having a nice little hibernation sleep. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
That was interesting how you mentioned the lunar cycles. I've been trying to build a theory. I always seem to see the humphead parrotfish around like a new moon or something was like a theory I was trying to create. But do you see any sort of patterns like that, Lawrence?
I can't say I've noticed with fish. Definitely around coral spawning and just after and before. The fish activity is just next level on the Great Barrier Reef and on Magnetic Island. Like you'll go in during those times and you just see literally every single fish species that you've seen scattered throughout the year. They're all active.
Yeah, it's like the world's biggest dating event those 2 nights, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. Have you done a lot of filming and photography during the spawning? Did you manage to see the last one at Maggie? Was it any good or?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, mass coral spawning was first discovered by scientists in the 70s in Jeffrey Bay, which is one of the local bays on Magnetic Island.
Yeah.
It was discovered by accident. Scientists just went out for a swim and then they discovered all the spawning, and then that triggered them to research it here and on Orpheus Island.
Wow. So that was in the 70s?
Yeah.
Geez, doesn't that show you? Isn't that like that's a whole nother show right there?
Spawning, yeah.
Yep, as to how we only discovered this, how important this event is in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can be sure that traditional owners probably have noticed it for a very, very long time before that, but for Western science to recognise it. And, yeah, only to recognise it in the 70s goes to show how much we're still learning. So, Lawrence, you have a particular interest in cephalopods, which includes octopus and cuttlefish. What is it that you love so much about them?
I think I've always just been drawn to them as a kid, just their allure, how they move and all the different colour changes. And the fact that they're genuinely so cryptic, especially on the Great Barrier Reef, that you don't often see too many of them around. So if you do, it is really special because you just don't see as many of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to remember the excitement of coming over a bombie and seeing a massive cuttlefish staring at me, changing colours, and they're just magical, aren't they?
There's nothing else like that.
No.
And especially the way they interact with you and divers.
Yeah.
Like, they're incredibly intelligent, and they can often be super inquisitive, so they'll even approach you. Octopus are renowned for taking my cameras. So.
Yeah, look, I can contest to that. I had one latch onto my dome port on my camera one day, and I was just taking photos of him, and he just came over and said, "Is this close enough?" And he was literally stuck to it. He was huge, and he wouldn't let it go. So I was trying to get my very expensive camera gear back off him. He was determined.
I hope you get a good shot from that.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Yeah, but it was funny at the same time because his other mate came up and he was having a crack too. It was like they ganged up on me.
Oh.
And they're so strong, right? Like, there's no way you can wrestle them.
No, I just let him have a play for a little while. I actually let go of it at one point and he was playing with it on the sand, and I thought, no, he's heading towards the coral. I don't really want the camera lens scratched. So I very gently just talked him into letting go of it.
You were like, mate.
Yeah, come on, champ. You have to do a photo course before I can let you have that.
We are here with marine biologist and underwater photographer Lawrence Scheele, and we're talking our favourite cephalopod stories, our favourite octopus and cuttlefish stories. I'm going to chime in with one of my favourite cuttlefish stories because they're so intelligent and they use their tentacles to communicate. I was actually diving once and swam up to one, and I didn't touch him, but he actually headbutted me. I was just kind of waving to him, waving my fingers, like, look, these are kind of like your tentacles. So I was waving my fingers, and I don't actually know how to speak cuttlefish sign language, so I don't know what I said.
You probably said you want to go, mate.
Yeah,
he thought this is one big cuttlefish.
He bounced off my mask, and I made it. Yeah, he was okay. But yeah, I made a loud noise, and my fellow diver was just a big eruption of bubbles because she was laughing so much.
That's funny.
So, Lawrence, we know that you've had some many interesting encounters with octopuses. Tell us a bit about. Well, we know they have different personalities, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Like with all animals, when you come across them, they each have a distinct personality. Like for the cephalopods, a lot of the time, some will be really curious and inquisitive and, as we said before, steal cameras and cause mayhem. But others may be very timid. They may just be sitting. The cuttlefish tend to just hover off the sand, so we call them a demersal species. Octopus crawl along the seafloor, so they're benthic. And then squids, their distant cousins, occupy the pelagic. So all the cephalopods have conquered all levels of the ocean, and depending on what substrate they are is how they behave as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you guys have noticed, the big fin reef squid, for example, forms these linear formations when there's a group of them, which we call a shoal of squid.
Yep.
They will form these formations, and the biggest one out of their shoal will always protect the little one from potential predators and threats.
Isn't that incredible?
So amazing.
Yeah.
They look like hovercraft or like spaceship when they're all hovering together, waving their wavy skirt around.
They do, especially at night when they come up to your dive torch and hunt the little shrimp and stuff attracted to it.
Yeah, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? Because you almost feel like you're helping him out. He comes over and goes, right, you find the torch that way and I can have some dinner. So you're sort of working together. And the little fish are going, please don't shine that torch at me.
Teamwork.
That's cheating.
Yeah.
So, well, that's interesting how you said that cephalopods have conquered every aspect of the ocean. You know, humans think we're in charge of the planet, but the planet's 70% ocean. And
yeah, they run the joint. That is for sure.
And they can also sort of team up with fish as well to help each other hunt, can't they, Lawrence?
Yeah, so we witnessed the day octopus cooperatively hunt with gropers specifically.
Yeah,
And
right.
what happens is the octopus will crawl along the floor and the groper will spot them and swim alongside the octopus. The octopus will go under a coral bommy, and the groper will go on the other side. And as the octopus goes under, all the retreating fish dart out from the sides
Yep.
of the bommy, and then the groper and the other fish eat them. And then the longer this happens, it creates this whole school of different species of fish all following the octopus and the groper.
Because they know they're going to get a free feed.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. So it's
Yeah, that's
incredible
gold.
to witness.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're just swimming along and you see this parade of different species following each other.
Yeah, I saw that once out at one of the ribbon reefs when I was filming Osprey. I actually saw the octopus working with a footballer trout, and he was doing the same thing. Where I didn't realise I was quite new at it back then. I was just sitting there filming and thought, what are these two up to? They look like they're best mates, and they were working together. The ockie would spread out and push all the little chromis out from inside this big piece of staghorn coral, and they'd just share the loot, and then they'd swim off together. And I'm thinking, did I just witness two different species working together as best mates to help out? And then I look back and there's a whole convoy of fish following them, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to follow this lot. And they just worked together for ages. It's incredible to see.
Wow. Yeah. And, I think people maybe didn't appreciate till recently with the release of that Netflix documentary, My Octopus Teacher, just how smart.
How many boxes of tissues do you go through in that?
Yeah, no spoiler alerts. But, they are kind of friendly and social, or can be. But also, apparently, Lawrence, they can be a bit spiteful, can't they?
Yeah, so one of the recent studies of the day octopus is they've worked out that the day octopus will punch fish that are annoying and out of
Oh,
spite.
yeah, I've seen that. That's a crack up. Yeah.
So maybe they're not so different to humans, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw that on, I think I might have seen it on Blue Planet, or My Oceans or something, the recent one, where the octopus was making his little den and he was grabbing his dinner, and then he'd put his rubbish out too close to his den, and then had realised that was attracting big fish waiting for him to come out to grab him. So he'd worked out that if he actually grabs the rubbish and takes off about 20 metres away and dumps the rubbish on the other side of the coral and comes back to his den, then the other fish won't know that that's where he's living. But one got too annoying and he snotted it. It's just hilarious.
Wow, so they're getting real sneaky with the whole technique that Lawrence taught us earlier, how to spot an octopus den.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might actually mislead us and lead us on a trail.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, well, enough about octopus for now. Another thing you've done in the name of science and art, Lawrence, is to actively seek out and swim toward deadly irukandji jellyfish.
Oh, yes. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, irukandji are just incredible. What sparked my curiosity is, as I was writing the guide, I wanted to make sure all the photos were taken of live animals and in the wild. So that meant me and my partner Casper had to suit up and then find all these irukandji species. And when you think about it, the irukandjis, a lot of them are only around for 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
Such a limited time to be able to photograph and film them. And generally, this time of the year, they're all in their adult stage, so there's a good chance you can actually see them. So for the past few summers, I've been actively going out and photographing these irukandjis in the wild and just witness what they're doing. And they're actually incredibly conscious and just amazing watching them trawl their tentacles. Their tentacles can look smooth, or when they're trawling or hunting, they extend their tentacles to meters, and they will make their tentacles textured like little beads, and fish will come up and bite it. Once a fish has got it, it will reel the tentacle in like a fishing rod and eat it.
Wow.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's a really cool technique that they're literally fishing for fish with a what looks deceptively like something edible, and as soon as the fish bites on it, gets reeled in. So you've seen this happening in front of your eyes, Lawrence.
Yeah, no, it's incredible watching them in their natural environment. And irukandjis, they have an eye on each corner. So they're very conscious. Like, people think with jellyfish, oh, they're dumb, they don't have a brain, they don't know what they're doing. But with the box jellyfish and irukandji species, they're highly conscious, and they'll actively avoid you. And, like, they will purposely, if you swim up to them, they'll try to swim away, and they'll go around you. They'll, like, maneuver to not get in contact with you.
Yeah.
In the process of photographing all the animals on the island, you've also discovered some new species, and you've also found species at Magnetic Island which are thousands of kilometres from their previously known range, as in, like, they shouldn't be there. So tell us a bit about the clam you found.
Yeah, so that was an amazing story. A few months ago, I was just on my regular snorkel, and I noticed this small clam semi-bored into the substrate. But what I noticed when I looked at it, it had these really distinct sort of circular or teardrop-shaped patterning all over the mantle, which looks like the lips of a giant clam. And I was like, okay, that's strange. I've never seen that before. So I took the coordinates, took pictures, and luckily for me, one of the world-leading clam experts lives on the island, Dr. Rick Brayley. And when I ran into him on the street, I said, oh, Rick, I think I found, like, a new clam that isn't known here. I think it's Noah's giant clam, which is the common name. And he said, oh, no, like, we don't get that. It's a Great Barrier Reef. You're probably seeing a different one. And I said,
you must be mad.
Well, yeah, I'll come over and I'll show you the photos.
Yeah.
So then the next day, I bring him the photos, and then as he's looking at them, he starts freaking out because he's seeing that it is Noah's giant clam and that it isn't scientifically recorded to exist on the Great Barrier Reef. So then we linked up with another clam scientist, and then we wrote the range extension to include the Great Barrier Reef and recorded the sighting right here on Magnetic Island. So it's really special.
How cool is that? That's brilliant.
Yeah, what a discovery.
Yeah.
And yeah, I understand it's not the only thing you've found that nobody else had realised was found on Magnetic Island. Tell us a bit about the corals. Some corals which appear to be endemic to Maggie Island, which means they aren't found anywhere else.
Yeah, some of the leading coral scientists believe there's this green acropora branching coral. It sort of comes in like a table plate form, and some of the scientists believe that it's endemic to Magnetic Island because they haven't seen it anywhere else. So I think they're researching the genetics of it and trying to track down the mystery of this green coral.
Yeah, and why it would choose that ecosystem. It's interesting, isn't it? Have they scientifically named what is it exactly?
It's a type of acropora coral, but it comes in this really distinct green and in this really like flat table-like structure.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, the acroporas are generally the faster-growing species of coral, aren't they? So I'm going to have a little bit more of a look into that. That's amazing.
Yes, we are here with marine biologist Lawrence Scheele, and we've been talking about marine life on beautiful Magnetic Island, particularly some corals which appear to be endemic to Maggie Island, which means they aren't found anywhere else. And that sort of made me think about the concept of supercorals, which are these corals that scientists want to identify because they are really resilient to living in those sort of sometimes high-stress environments. So let's talk about the environmental impacts, Lawrence. What are the biggest threats to the marine life at Maggie Island?
The marine life at Maggie Island has evolutionarily adapted to living in higher levels of sediment, freshwater influx, algae growth, and heat. So they're already genetically extremely resilient because they've evolved in such like a more harsh environment to the outer reef system. But one of the threats to Magnetic Island's coral reef systems is sediment and pollutant runoff, and as well as dredging and the way that's been done. Over the years, the locals have been witnessing that dredge spoil is making its way to the island and smothering the coral reefs and causing disease and slowly degrading the reef over time.
Yeah, and introducing just way too much high nutrient to it as well.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, hopefully the species there are some of them are resilient, but like Brett sort of asked earlier, what sort of impacts did the marine life experience from the huge floods that Townsville had in 2019?
Yeah, the 2019 floods, we saw very high coral mortality. We saw lots of things bleaching due to the stress of it, especially on the southeastern side. And there's a reef in between the island and Townsville called Middle Reef that got largely impacted by the freshwater inundation. And yeah, it's just devastating effects that a major flood can have on the reef system.
Yeah, and that's true, isn't it? I mean, one question I get asked a lot at work at the Cairns Aquarium from my guests when I've done coral talks is it just heat stress that our corals are suffering from? And no, as we know, that's not the only thing. When we get these massive floods and, all these rain up on the Gulf Savannah and it works its way through, fresh water is an issue, isn't it? Because coral is a saltwater animal, and if we have too much fresh water as well as too much high nutrient, plus then the temperatures as well, she's dealing with a lot at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And especially if there's no wind or tide movement, that fresh water can sit on top of a coral reef for days.
Yeah.
So some of the things that us humans have done which might have exacerbated these things is a tree clearing, obviously, because trees and wetlands were nature's way of filtering water and trapping sediment before it runs off into the waters of the ocean, and a lot of tree clearing over time has contributed to that. So, planting trees and saving the trees that we do have is really important. Just being careful about what pesticides and fertilizers you use in your garden. When you wash your car, the suds wash down into the creek and things like that, obviously.
It doesn't just vanish, it goes somewhere.
Yeah, but then on a larger scale, there's industrial impacts in Australia around the ocean. So, Lawrence, if any listeners they're feeling inspired, they want to do something to help protect the Great Barrier Reef and its marine life, what are some things you suggest they can do?
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, one of the biggest ways of nurturing the reef is looking after all our river systems and waterways, because that has a direct impact to our reef. And there's a big push at the moment on Magnetic Island. So it's the private landowners that have a creek in their backyard to not remove the native plants and to actually plant back in the native vegetation.
Yep, the natural filters.
That's it. Get rid of that lawn and plant back native species, because especially during the flood events, if there's not enough trees or vegetation there, it causes mass erosions to their own land and backyard as well. So it's just better for everyone to look after the riverways and creeks and plant more native vegetation back into the system.
That's right.
And that's true no matter where people live in the world, because every creek eventually leads to the ocean.
For sure.
Any other tips for what people can do to help protect the reef?
I think just like the classic ones, like reducing plastic, picking up any plastic or litter that you see in waterways or at the beach or just anywhere, especially for the marine life. Like we've seen epaulet sharks with a tin can around their neck. We've seen turtles ingest plastic, and it can be avoided if we actually just maintain our waste and dispose of it efficiently.
Yeah, that's right. It's heartbreaking to see, isn't it? And it's even more heartbreaking knowing that it is avoidable. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've got just under 5 minutes left, Lawrence. So give us a bit of inspiration, because you've got most people's dream life, snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef, on Magnetic Island, on a tropical island, and discovering new creatures. Yeah, we were joking the other day, it's kind of like playing Pokemon Go, is that what it's called? Like, you've got to find all the new animals.
Yeah. I only saw those people walking through the streets like zombies. I never did it though.
So if there are any young people listening out there who might be studying marine science or who might be interested in studying marine science, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, my advice would be to get out there as much as you can and start documenting species or behaviours or patterns that you begin to notice, the more time you spend out in the field, the more you'll understand how the marine environment works, and the more questions you'll have. And the more questions you have is perfect, because that means you as a scientist or a naturalist need to delve into these questions and work with the right people to uncover that.
Yeah, that's such an incredible message, mate. And it's the same as I get young people come up to me at the aquarium all the time and go, I want to do what you do, and I want to do this, and I want to be a marine biologist, and I want to look at fish. What do I need to do? And the first thing I say is you've got to get yourself out there first. You know, you've got to understand the personality of the animals and connect with them. And then that allows you to ask questions and understand it more. You've got to be in the field and just live and breathe them, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the best way people learn, because you're experiencing it, but more importantly, you can actually feel it. And I think using that feeling and putting that into your work, I think, goes a long way than just reading things in a book, but actually applying that knowledge in the field is just so important.
Yeah, and there's no replacement for just having a passion and really loving the marine life that you're interacting with, and it really comes through in your stories and the way that you talk, Lawrence. It's obvious that you really love the marine life of the reef, and that love and those experiences inspires your passion for advocating for them. So, yeah, if people want to follow your adventures on Maggie Island and perhaps order some of your incredible photograph prints, where can they check you out and follow you?
For sure. So on Instagram, my handle is snorkeldownunder, and my website is lawrence.scheele.com. And we do fine art prints and a bit of merch here and there. And I will be releasing my upcoming book, A Field Guide to the Marine Life of Magnetic Island, within the next few months, so please stay tuned for that.
Exciting.
Yeah, so if anyone out there is listening, get on, support, have a look at his beautiful photos and really connect with it like you have, Lawrence. It's incredible. It's been a real privilege to be able to sit here and chat to you for the past hour, because it gives us the opportunity to feel like that we're out in the ocean while we're sitting here, and we can feel that passion in your voice as well. It's something that is such a privilege.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. It's been a really fun chat and awesome to take us and all the listeners beneath the waves of Magnetic Island with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Enjoy your snorkeling today if you're heading out.
Yeah, and say good day to the octopus for us.
Yeah, we'll do that.
That'd be awesome. And let us know if they've worked us out and they're not putting their rubbish out the front of their den anymore.
So yeah, throwing a curveball.
Yep. Yeah.
Have a good one, Lawrence. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back next Friday at 10 o'clock with more awesome marine science adventures, and our special guest for next week will be Dr. Yolanda Waters.